What's up? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe, and on the phone line from the Covino and Rich Show on SiriusXM Radio and Now or Never on ESPN2, Rich Davis is back on Hoppe Hour. What's up, dude?
What's up, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I have been listening to you guys for the past 7 years, and I had you on 3 years ago, and what I find fascinating about you guys is your show changes every single year. You guys grow up, but you guys never change. You're Covino and Rich.
You know, that's a great observation because, yeah, while we are growing up and getting older, we are the same two bozos. You know, we've always been, you know. Life happens, life changes, you get older, things happen, but, yeah, same old crap, really.
So I'm at the age of 25 where I keep saying to myself that I'll never get married, that I'll never have kids, and I'm going to be 40 and rich and single. When did that all change for you? Because I know every dude in their 20s has that mindset. I hear from everybody that's married that they had the mindset in their 20s of what I have at 25. Why do you think that happens in life? Like, why am I going to probably be married in 10 years?
When I was your age, I was just around the stage where I was leaving Z100, starting Covino and Rich at Sirius Radio at the time.
Yeah.
And, yeah, my mindset, all I cared about was dating, hooking up, and, all right, let me make money so that I could do these things and, do nice things and have access to nice, good-looking women. That's pretty much probably your mindset right now. And, you know, what happens is you get, not that you get sick of it, but times change, man, and you start thinking, like, all right, you don't want to be the old guy at the club.
Yeah.
You start realizing, maybe having a girlfriend, settling down ain't so bad. And then you start thinking about things like real estate instead of spending your money on dumb crap.
Man, when did it all change for you? Was it when you got married or was it when you had your kid? When do you think it just changed overall for you?
I think the big change on our show was Covino thought our show would change big time when he became a dad. And if anything, you become more relatable because you don't realize how many of your listeners have kids. And, for a minute we're like, oh, no, we're the two guys that are, always talking about dating and girls and this and that. Oh, no, you're going to have a kid now. Is that going to change? And like I said, it's a big country and we have listeners from everywhere. And we thought Covino was a young dad at 33 at the time. And truthfully, like, this guy's in their 20s that have like multiple kids. So you grow with your audience, really what it is. I'm sure you're seeing that with your audience. You're going through the same stuff together.
Well, you know what I like about you guys, and this is what I tried to emulate after you guys, is you guys can say what you want about it, but you guys have made it big in radio. Like, you guys are doing very well, but you guys literally, you guys talk to each and every one of your friends, because I feel like we can think of all these radio hosts that have big heads, and they claim that they're happy with what they have, but they don't talk to the fans. And what I really like is that even though you guys are on ESPN2 and you guys are killing it, you guys are in that group that I'm in too, Carl, for your listeners. And you guys talk to everybody, and it's so refreshing to see people put in time for their listeners throughout all the years.
Ryan, it's super important, and I know you have that same mentality. It's super important to be thankful for the people that support you. When you really think about it, if you could live your life being on the radio or television and essentially having fun for a living, why would you not be thankful and appreciative of the people that support you? Because the people that support us make that possible. We wake up in the morning and talk on the radio for 3 hours, and then right now we're actually on our way to ESPN to do the TV show. If it wasn't, like, we'd be ungrateful jerks if we didn't thank the people that helped us along the way, and the people that listen, the people that hit us up on Twitter, Instagram. That's important.
How happy are you with what you've done in radio so far? Are you pretty happy with what you've done?
I feel like Covino and I, timing-wise, were luckily some of the last people to really get into terrestrial radio and then into satellite radio, and it was a little easier. Like, you're a talented guy, and as you could probably attest, it's a difficult path to get on satellite or terrestrial. Now the blueprint is get a podcast and hope that somehow you could find people to listen, right?
Yeah. It's totally different, dude. 10 years ago, there weren't as many shows as there are out now. It's crazy how many are out.
No, it's like when we first started, the whole goal was get on a morning show in a big city and you could become rich. Then very quickly it became, all right, you need to get on, like, you need to be in New York, LA, or a couple different places to make money. And now, I love all these people, but unless you're Elvis Duran, Ryan Seacrest, one of those types, you're not going to make a ton of money unless you're syndicated,
Well, you know what's weird, too, is I feel like it's going to be even harder for people to get into radio in 10 years. Like, it's very hard for me to get into radio. I worked with Rover, and now I'm here in Tampa, and I began through promotions. And I feel like they're just going to keep finding ways to not have new jobs. And I think that's when radio needs to realize that you guys have to begin to get new talent that's in their 20s. Because no offense to you, Rich, you guys...
No offense. Without a doubt. You ain't kidding, man. I find it fascinating that Covino and I are still considered the young guys in radio, and we're both around 40. Yeah. Compared to some of the greats like the Howards and the Jim and Sam's, which used to be Opie and Anthony, and the Pharrells and the Bubba the Love Sponges, and Elvis Duran's and Seacrest, and whatever format you want to talk about. Bobby Bones is in his 40s also. There's no one young at all. The window's open for you, my friend, and I just think I don't know who's there though. Who's listening to a guy like you? Not meaning who's listening to your show. Who's listening and realizing that a guy like you has a lot to offer?
You know what my goal is? I want to just get on overnight in some town and just do this bizarre overnight show. And to me, that's how I feel like you can make it in radio, is if you do something that nobody else did, which is like what you guys did, Howard did, Opie and Anthony did. To me, I feel like the key to being a legit name in radio is you have to have an original radio name and you have to have an original act.
Do you feel like radio, the internet, and stuff like that has sort of cramped radio a bit? Because you're a guy that has a love for radio. You get it. You understand it. I've heard your podcast, and you do a professional radio style podcast, and I wonder if a guy like you gets angry that radio is that the internet has sort of cramped radio as far as everyone thinks they're a YouTube star, everyone thinks they're legit. Meanwhile, a guy like you actually knows what he's doing.
No, it's not that I get annoyed. It's more Joe Rogan set a precedent that you don't have to put in any work into your show and that you can do a show. That works for Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan's the king at what he does. It's not my format, but what he does it perfectly. The problem is I know so many people that are like, I'm going to begin a show, and they have like a crappy mic in their room and they're talking into a laptop. And the problem is that's why guys like Howard look down on podcasts, is because they don't know that there's a lot of talented people that do it, but there's so much crap out there that you really have to fight to prove to people that it's worth listening to. Like, dude, I'll get recognized at a hockey game, and they're like, oh, yeah, you work at the Bone. And then I'm like, well, have you checked out my show? And they're like, oh, you have to go on Spotify. Like, you have to get people to listen. It takes a lot of work.
Trust me, I feel for you because I know you're a guy that knows broadcasting, but I always joke that with Covino and I, the one thing that will annoy us is when someone says, what do you do for a living? And we say, oh, we do a talk show on SiriusXM, and we do a TV show on ESPN2 now. And someone goes, oh, my friend does the same thing. She does like a weekly podcast where she like talks about makeup tips. And I'm like, nope, we don't do the same thing. Nope, we don't. And so I can only imagine. I hate that you, who are a broadcaster, are linked in with that. But hey, the world of podcasting is a big place now.
It almost makes me more motivated because here's what I did. I used to film myself every single time I did my show, but then my listens were going down, and I'm like, well, I'm not some hot chick, so who needs to watch me doing the show when it's also coming through the phone, and you can listen to it afterwards. So I got a cartoon as my pick on social media, and I never show my face unless I'm taking a picture that I post on social media. And, dude, now that I hide my face and I just do it through the mic and you don't see me, my listens are through the roof. And I got that because I was like, if I want to go into radio as a kid, why am I trying to do what's the popular thing? Why not go back to what you knew growing up? And that's what I'm doing now.
Not a bad idea. Hey, let me ask you this, because you're around the same age as some of our producers and some of the younger folks in radio. When you go out on a bat and you're with your buddies, do girls at the bar ask you how many followers you have? Is that an actual question nowadays?
Yeah.
Is that crazy or what?
It's weird because I have like 7,500, which is pretty good, but then I'll feel so, I'll feel so average when I'm on a date with like a hot girl, and she's like, well, I'm a model and I have 17,000. And this person, that's happened to me once or twice where some hot girl, you know what the thing to do now is, and you guys got to bring this up tomorrow on your show, what people do. Girls my age are sending out like naked snaps to dudes for like $4. And they're just selling themselves on Tinder, and they're making so much money. And they literally
no, I have a friend of a friend. I have a friend who is telling me she knows particular women that I know. I've seen them out and about, and she tells me that she snaps and Instagrams guys, DMs them or snaps them nudies for like $100 a pop, and that's how she helps pay her rent. I'm like, are you serious? I was unaware of this game.
Dude, it's fascinating because, like, it's just so funny because these dudes, I guess, are paying for it, and it's like 75 cents a message. And it's like, dude, I almost wish I was a hot girl because that sounds marvelous. It just sounds amazing. Oh. You literally can just take pictures of yourself and make money.
Yeah, but Hoppy, the big difference is that the people that follow you, like your podcast, or their radio colleagues that respect you, the girl that has those followers, they're not fans of her. They're a fan of her ass cheeks, and that goes away.
That actually is kind of true.
It's not like it's not like she has fans. It's her butt has fans. And you actually have people that are that are supporting your. It's crazy.
It is really weird though to think that like literally you couldn't have said that to yourself 25 years ago. Like, imagine we were talking right now and it was 1993 and you were to tell yourself in 1993 that girls could make money by taking pictures of themselves. It would seem so foreign.
No, it would seem foreign to me when Covino and I started doing our show in the early to mid 2000s.
Yeah.
If you told me in 04, 05, it would be very important, guys, for you to be on social media and the future. There's not going to be models anymore. Maxim and FHM and Playboy are going to be irrelevant. There's going to be just regular girls that show their bodies on this thing called Instagram. I would have been like, what the heck? Get out of here. But that's the truth. We used to broadcast from Maxim parties, Playboy parties. That's where the hot girls went. And that was, listen, you got to adjust with the times. And that's, it's innovate or die, as Gary Vaynerchuk would say.
You know what's weird? You don't realize how far things have come until you watch like an old episode of like Seinfeld, even The Office. At this point, they were showing Jim on like a BlackBerry phone, and I'm like, okay, this is old. It's weird, man.
It's so many episodes would be solved with a simple cell phone these days.
Do you think your show will ever live up to being like Howard or Opie and Anthony? Do you guys ever think that you'll become one of the names that people talk about?
I sort of enjoy living in this little world where we're under the radar. Well, what's interesting is when you're on satellite radio, right? So if every single person with satellite radio, which they don't, listen to us, we'd still not be exposed to 90% of the population. So truthfully, like we're so, or our exposure is so little, which is why the ESPN thing, if that continues to grow, that'll be another way for us to get exposure. I'm sort of, to be honest, another thing you'll realize as you get older, as we were saying, the difference between being 20-something and 30-something, 40-ish, is you start to realize all you really care about is making a living and spending time with your friends and family. All that other stuff just is all irrelevant. Like, yeah, it would be cool to be one of the shows that that people talk about and they sweat. But truthfully, I just want to make money and hang out with my family and friends. That's really what you'll feel that way in 10 years.
Do you ever like look at other people that keep chasing fame and you can tell they want to be the huge names and they're not happy with what they have? Do you kind of feel bad for them?
I do, because you're chasing something. You see a lot of celebrities that are at the top say it's not worth it. You said Jim Carrey almost loses his mind last year. Remember, he's like, I've been to the top. It's not that great. You see a lot of these A-listers, they don't seem so happy because it's just, success and all that. You think it's going to make everything great. Covino, who says it on your show the other day? You always want more? Oh, Adam Carolla was saying how he was talking to Stallone at a party that we were all at. And Stallone feels like he's unappreciated in the world of Hollywood. So no matter who you are, you always feel like you could get more. Like if Sylvester Stallone thinks that he's unappreciated, then damn, right? I mean, aren't we all underappreciated then?
When was there a moment when you were able to like sit back and appreciate what you had done so far? Like, was it when you first signed with Sirius? Was it this new show on TV? When was the moment when you were officially able to kind of sit back and go, man, this is real?
You know what? I'll tell you what. When we continuously sign contract after contract at SiriusXM, and I know they like us there, and when we signed our contract with ESPN, I think there was a sense where Covino and I were like, yeah, look at that. There's all, we live in Los Angeles, a city of pretenders, a city of people that are saying, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. A lot of people that talk a game that really aren't doing much, and it's nice to just, we're actually doing two things. Our days are very busy, but we're actually doing things. A lot of people say they're doing things, but they're not. We're actually doing things.
Now, this was a thing I was thinking about asking you while driving up here. It was just a thought that came to my mind. After Anthony Cumia got let go in that whole fashion 5 years ago and all the media madness that came to Sirius, how much pressure did you guys – I'm just curious. How much pressure was there on every single show after that happened? Like, were you guys even nervous that old tapes would show up of maybe crazy things that happened? I was just thinking about this driving in. I was like, I wonder how that moment in time when that whole thing blew up, how that affected everybody that worked there.
Rude Jude is one of the guys on SiriusXM. I don't know if you ever have listened to Rude Jude on Shade 45. He does a great show.
Yeah.
He's talked about this in the office with us, and it's nowadays it's just not worth it, because unless you're super passionate about something, to get controversial just for the heck of it, is it really worth like jeopardizing your job to take a dumb stance on something? But as far as when Anthony got let go, and if you back to the Rude Jude thing for a second, if you're defending someone in the news, like, I don't know, let's say, Joe Biden, right?
Yeah.
Joe Biden in the news for people saying, oh, does he creepily hang around women? Hey, I could be the biggest Joe Biden fan, but Joe Biden doesn't care about me, so why am I going to go defending Joe Biden? Like, for me to defend Joe Biden and have people be like, hey, why are you defending Joe Biden? Joe Biden does jack diddly do for me, so why am I going to defend Joe Biden? And as far as when Opie and Anthony got let go, we did have this conversation with our producer Spot as far as, well, listen, man, when we go back into the archives of Covino and Rich, we're never ashamed of where we were. But if we're going to play an old tape where things might be a little sensitive for how things are today, we should probably be very sure that it's labeled correctly. Like if we're doing, hey, here's a throwback clip of 2005, we may be saying things that might be considered sexist now. We might be saying, oh, that's gay or this or that, like, which was more lingo then than obviously now these things are not said. We just want it to be labeled properly. So we just don't want our producer to put a best of together if we happen to take random vacation days. A new listener might not know that's old unless it's labeled correctly. So I think it's a matter of labeling it. Like if you listen to a Sternthology, it'll say, oh, here's Howard from 2002. You know the context. I think it's context. I think that's the key.
Dude, I think Anthony's big moment there was, I think, the beginning of the PC culture. I'm trying to think if there was a bigger moment within the last 10 years where everyone's just been offended. But to me, that was the first time where I feel like any radio host could get let go. And to me, when Sirius Radio got hit with the whole free speech thing and then they let him go, I just feel like that's when the fake outrage really began.
There's moments in time that you could look at for turning points.
Yeah.
And one is obviously Justin Timberlake at the Super Bowl. That defines, when he ripped off Janet Jackson's shirt and Nipplegate and all that sort of changed the way things were censored, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, Opie and Anthony does certain things, and that just reminded me that, hey, everyone's got to be very careful with racial stuff and sexist stuff. There's certain things that just because you're an uncensored platform, you're still representing a company. A lot of people say, hey, do you think you could say anything you want? And I say, well, we're on an uncensored platform, but that doesn't mean Sirius or someone at SiriusXM or ESPN can't not like something we said. Just because you could say what you want doesn't mean someone else is going to have to like it if you work for them.
Yeah, man, that was just, to me, a time where I feel like it made every other show get better at Sirius. I feel like that's when a lot of shows maybe thought, okay, we need to quit being such shock jocks, because you guys just sound better than ever. Because I go through a phase where I'll pay for Sirius for like 5 months, and then I quit for like 6 months. Then I'm like, crap, there's nothing to listen to. So then I'll go back to listen to you guys now and Jason Ellis and Howard. Like, I've been listening the last 4 months. And it's just crazy. Like, you guys just, a lot of shows now in radio seem like they'll get lazy or they just don't try anymore. And it seems like you guys are one of the few shows that have been out so long that for some reason you guys keep caring.
Well, we genuinely love what we do, and we realize that it's a pretty golden opportunity, because I don't know what I would want to do besides this. But, yeah, we continue to try because we genuinely like each other. But it is easy to get lazy, but I do think that, I think that Covino and I both agree that we want to keep doing this. And if we in our mind, like, if we start sucking, that might not last. So I think I'm just motivated because I want to keep my job.
What do you think is going to happen when your kid gets old enough to look up her dad online? Are you nervous about that at all?
No, Covino and I have thought about this because his daughter is 9 now, believe it or not.
Yeah,
and,
wow.
Especially living in California, if your kids look you up, half the kids in LA's parents did porn or something. what do I care? When you really think about it, I was like, what is my daughter's going to hear daddy singing a song about junk? Like, hey, you live a pretty good life, kiddo. Daddy can sing about junk all he wants.
Dude, could you imagine if like
mommy and daddy met because she was a swimsuit model and daddy did a radio show. So that's why you're alive, pal.
Dude, you just said it best. At least you're not in porn. Imagine being in porn and having kids. That's got to be the weirdest thing, man. That's weird,
yeah,
bro.
because you know why? Because your kid would probably accidentally scroll by you at least once in their life.
Dude, I just can't imagine going into porn. You know what I'm saying? Just like, why would you want to do it? Like, don't you respect yourself? Like, I think this is a sign of me growing up, bro. When I first watched porn 12, 13 years ago, I was like, this is the most amazing thing. And now that I'm 25, going on 26 in 5 months, I begin to watch it, and I'm just like, this is sad, man.
Well, you're growing up a lot faster than we did, because Covino and I say the saddest thing when it comes to porn is if you are diving in and watching some clips on your computer, when you're done and you minimize your screen and your wallpaper is like a beautiful family photo of your kid and stuff, you feel like a real piece of garbage. You go from looking at smut and then you're like, oh, there's my family photo.
Dude, imagine being let's say 10 years old again, and you're a kid, and you find that first nudie magazine in the, let's say, field. What if you were to be told at that moment that in 40 years you could pull up a phone and watch gangbang porn? How crazy as a kid, if you were told that sentence, that in 40 years you can just watch it anywhere, what would that have been like?
I think Covino and I both agree that we were raised in such a great generation, because you have that stuff at your fingertips now. And that just goes beyond porn, technology in general. It's at your fingertips now. But when you were a kid, you had to work for it a little bit. If you wanted the answer to something, you had to look it up. If you wanted, you had to put a little more effort into it. If you needed to find somewhere, you got directions. If you wanted to, see a boob, you had to go find a way to get a nudie magazine. Now, there really is very little effort in being a kid nowadays. You Google anything. It gives you zero effort to want to learn anything. So I think we grew up at a good time. I wouldn't trade it in. As much as it probably would have been cool to have internet and smut as a kid, I think we grew up pretty good.
So this is going to make you feel so old, but I was born in 93. So I grew up, I saw the loud internet in the back room. I remember a lot about the 90s. So even though people are like, oh, you're born in 93, I remember the 90s. I believe my year, 93 and 94, those are the last years to remember things about the 90s, because once you become like 95, 96, you're not going to remember. Anyway, so I'm young enough to remember, bro, when you would literally have to look up things on Google, and there were times you never found an answer. Like, it's weird now.
Oh, yeah.
You can literally go, I want to watch season 7, episode 20 of Family Guy, and you're going to find it. But as a kid, I never had TV. I never, until I was in 7th grade, I had local TV. But growing up, all I watched was DVDs. And if you could have told me back then that there'd be a service for $8 a month where you can watch whatever you want to a point, my little kid mind could not have handled that.
No, not at all. And by the way, the fact that you were born then, that's around the time Covino was graduating high school, and I was kissing a girl for the first time. So you did make us feel old. Thank you.
Do you really miss the 90s, or do you guys just think you guys miss being young?
I miss being younger. I'll be honest. Like, I feel the thing is, Ryan, if you keep that young mindset, which I'm sure you have, I don't feel any different. And, you know, Covino and I'll pat ourselves on the back. We look good for our age. So we don't look that much different than when we were in our, you know, mid to late 20s. We're not drastically different looking. So I still feel like I'm a kid. That's the thing, that if you keep that young mindset like you have, where you stay in the loop on pop culture and life and news and sports. And let's say, you know, the way you are, you're never going to feel old. It's not like you're like, man, I feel old. I don't feel any. I feel young as could be. I talk to my 27-year-old intern. I forget sometimes that, oh wait, you're 15 years younger than me. I don't remember that half the time.
You know what I think worked out perfectly for you guys is you guys went under the radar the last 18 years. And I think the fact that now you're getting your shot on TV and you guys are doing so well, it's because you've been overlooked the last 14 years. But if you guys would have been famous, I feel like you maybe would have had a failed project 11 years ago and then maybe a failed project 7 years ago. And that would kind of hang on your legacy. And people would be like, oh, are Covino and Rich supposed to be on TV? These two shows bombed. But I feel like the fact that you guys have just done your thing for the last 19 years, I feel like that's why everything's working perfectly, is because now you guys are ready for this TV show. Because when I watch it's just so laid back. I watch a lot of shows and they try to be laid back, but bro, you guys literally are doing what people need to do.
Thanks, man. You know, you made a great point. You got to be ready for the opportunity, because you're right. If Covino and I would have been given an opportunity before we were ready, you're right. It could have failed, and then it would have been a mark. You know, people could have very well said, oh, you know, they had their chance and they blew it. But you know, we never had that chance. So since we never had that chance, you know, other than, you know, the SNY show was great and all, that was a good learning. You know, we did that for a couple of years. That was actually a good learning for ESPN. But yeah, the fact that we didn't have all these little projects that came and went does help us. And to be honest, because we're on satellite radio, people that are learning about us now are like, hey, how long have you guys been working together? And I don't want to say that long, because they're amazed sometimes, because they don't think we're that old. So we don't want to say, oh, we've been working together for 15 years. So I think we're going to start lying.
Now, if you don't want to answer, that's fine. But has one place you've worked at told you to clean up your radio show at all, or are they cool with what you're doing?
Oh, everyone's cool with what we're doing. I know ESPN.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, when we do the ESPN radio fill-ins and when we do that stuff, they know what we do on SiriusXM, but they understand that Covino and we also have the ability to be clean when we want to. So they sort of trust us. We've had like one or two conversations where it was never like, hey guys, clean up your act. It was, hey, you guys know that this is different than your satellite show, and we're like, yeah, of course, we get it. And like that's the end of the conversation. Like they trust our judgment. It doesn't hurt that I worked in top 40 radio for, you know, also for the last 20 years essentially. So they know I know how to clean it up, you know.
And you know how there's those radio guys that bring baggage, like they bring in numbers, but they bring in baggage where when they come to a new place, they talk about all the bad things about the old place. You guys don't do that. And I think that's what makes things probably pretty peaceful, is that your different places that you work at know that you're not going to bring the drama from the other job there. And they know that you guys are just there to do your job.
Yeah, Covino and I we're pretty low maintenance, man. I'll be honest. It's amazing how you see people that are high maintenance, and, you know, I won't call people out, but there's a lot of big names that are high maintenance. And then I think to myself, man, why be so difficult? Covino and I just go to work, we're nice to everyone, we do our show, and go home. That's all we want to do, you know? And, like, we're going to ESPN right now. We're on our way, and when we get there, we'll do our meeting, we'll do our show, we'll give everyone a high five and call it a night and see you tomorrow. Like, there's no reason for drama, honestly.
Do you listen to any of your old shows from when you first began with Covino and Cringe?
Yes, we do, because what at the time was funny and what at the time was sort of our brand, it is a little cringy at times. I could see why, what's his name, didn't want to say, what you talking about, Willis? Gary Coleman, before he died, I could see why he didn't want to say that all the time. Because the truth is, when I hear things like, we used to call like hot girls nussies, and I hear that, and I'm like, and it gives me the chills. But I'm like, you know what, when we were 20, that was funny. So, when I was 24, that was funny as hell. So I can't deny it. I hate when people still say it now.
Why do you think some dudes just don't want to grow up? It seems like in every media business, you just have that guy that you look at and you're like, dude, you never left the 80s or 90s.
I don't know why some of those guys don't want to grow up. You know what? I think there's some guys that don't want to grow up, meaning like settle down at all. And I think those guys are either live the life or it gets sad quick. I always bust his chops, but one of my good buddies, Scary Jones, who's on Elvis Duran in the morning show, like Scary's in his 40s, and he's lived that party guy bachelor life for a while. And I think all of our friends, especially his colleagues, and I know Elvis busts his balls too, that there's going to come a point where it's like, Scary, how long are you going to be the bachelor? You don't want to be the old guy at the club. And that's what that's what you got to toe that line, right?
But doesn't that put unnecessary pressure where you feel like you have to find somebody? Like, what if he's doing it right?
Yeah, maybe, you know what? Maybe he is. I see his Instagram story, and he looks like he's always having fun, so maybe he is doing it right.
That's what I can't figure out. Is I have friends that are in radio that are in 40s that are in their 40s that are single that love it, and then there's people that are married that love it and hate it. That's what's weird. Is like you never know what's the right answer.
Man, I'll give you the truth. There's some great feelings in life. One is being single, and how do I say this politely on your radio?
Say
show?
Whatever.
There's a few thrills in life. One of the greatest feelings in the world is getting a new girl naked for the first time.
Yeah.
That's one of the few. When you're a single guy, getting a new woman naked for the first time because she's into you so much that she's like wants you. There's no better feeling than that.
It's the best.
But there's a time for that, and this is where I get all corny on you. When my daughter, when I walk in the house and she's like, "Daddy, Daddy," and she like gives me a hug, that's almost as cool as seeing a girl naked for the first time. Different feelings, but almost as cool. So you just go through stages,
Dude, where can people find your TV show? What time are you on ESPN2, Now or Never?
Oh, this is great because this is another thing. We're on so late on the East Coast that it's giving us the perfect chance to like get used to what we're doing before they hopefully, revamp. And, I would like the show to be on, prime time at some point. But right now we're on 2 a.m. Set that DVR. But here on the West Coast, it was designed to be a West Coast late night show. This we're based out of L.A. They wanted one show that could sort of recap the day in sports and pop culture that was on, live on the, close to live on the West Coast. We tape about an hour before it airs. So, they realized that Scott Van Pelt's Sports Center was the last live show, so they needed something after that. But late, 2 a.m. on the East Coast, 11 p.m. on the West Coast, and it's a half hour on ESPN2. It's a lot of fun. I think the show will grow and probably even turn into something else eventually. But as of now, we're having fun doing it.
Well, dude, keep up the good work. It's been a lot of fun having you on the show, and it's been very cool watching you guys grow over the years.
Thanks, man, and continued success for yourself, man. I'm always rooting for you.
All right, thank you, bro.
All right, later, man.